All right, Jen, now we got everything all together. I hit record, so gotta let it all out and tell everybody. So first of all, I met Jen through a network or entrepreneurs networking group called BLN, and I was able to get to spend some time with you and a bunch of other people in Florida. I think it was 4 or 5 days under the same roof, and I got to know Jen and a bunch of other people at the same time. So that was a great experience. And so we had, I think since then we jumped on Zoom or whatever, and we were able to connect again. And here we are, where you can come on and share your journey with others. So, Jen, if you could just introduce yourself, and then you can share what you're doing today, and we can just see how you got to where you are today.
I love it. Yeah. Well, the roof that we got to all spend time under was a roof for a mansion. That was pretty incredible. That was not like any other roof I've ever been under. That was a lot of fun, and it was good to connect with you and others for sure. So I am Jen Olson, and what I am up to in life is I'm actually committed that people get to live the lives that they were created to live. That's my commitment in life. And so, yeah, that's my commitment. I have it that each person has gold inside of each one of them, and they're created for a purpose and to uniquely express that in the world. And so that's my commitment. When I interact with people and converse with them, I want to see them win. And if there's any way that I can contribute to whatever their journey is, I'm happy to do so. So that's my commitment in life. So I didn't really even answer your first question. I'm already going rogue.
You're off. You are way off. No, seriously. That's good. And we can talk through all that. But I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah. So I do a handful of things. And the one thing that I'm most committed to and is taking my priority in terms of time is I'll start with a commitment that I really will say what I do. I am really committed to disrupting the health insurance industry. And so what I do is I make health care affordable for small business owners and for entrepreneurs. So that's what I'm up to business-wise.
And so is that part of your commitment of helping others?
Yes, that's one way that I'm able to help others. Yeah.
So then what are some other ways then you're helping others?
I mean, in an informal way, I like to contribute by connecting people with who they're looking for. So, if I talk to someone and hear their commitments and hear what they're up to, I love to connect other people. And then I also am committed to being the space that people get to be who they are in my presence, like when they're with me. So it's not in a formal way. It's just what I'm committed to as a human in the world, and like how I go about my life.
Yeah. And have you always enjoyed doing that? Networking, connecting people?
I have. I'm actually, I've always enjoyed connecting with people. So I used to have a ton more energy when I was younger. And so this is actually me with less energy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot less energy. So I used to go into a room and I wouldn't leave without talking to every single person. Like it would be my mission, not because like I wanted to check it off, but I was just so curious about who every single person was. And so however I wound up being that way, like that was just the way that I interacted with people. And I grew up not thinking that I was a contribution. So I actually grew up with a different view of myself, that I wasn't a contribution, that what I had to say wasn't of value to other people. And there was a shift that happened as an adult that had me say, hey, like me being me is a contribution, and you being you is a contribution, whether that's a business contribution, just a personal encouragement, whatever way it shows up, like it is a contribution. So I would view other people as a contribution. And I had this misperception of who I was. So it's like everyone else could add this much value, but here I was, and like what I had to say and give was not of equal value to people.
So how did you get to that point where you found yourself to be valuable?
Yeah. So I grew up with the story that I was not good enough. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like we as humans kind of have different tapes that kind of play, or like different things that we think about ourselves. At least that's my experience as a human. Where at a very young age, there was an incident that occurred. I won't go into the details. I don't think the incident's very important. And what I made that incident mean about myself was that I wasn't good enough and that the world was dangerous. And so I went about the world trying to compensate for not being good enough. So that started around like 4 or 5 years old and carried on until actually like, I mean, I can talk a little bit more about those distinct incidents where that started to kind of free up, but that continued on very consistently and persistent for years and years and years and years until maybe 15 years ago, and I'm 41 now. So that's a really long time that would go about. So that played out in what I did in business or for a profession. I just stayed with what was comfortable. I stayed with what I knew, and I wouldn't venture out. Friends of mine were like buying real estate and investing, and I thought I want to do that, but there was that story, like that limiting belief that I wasn't good enough and that I couldn't. And if I were to step out, like I needed to know things, when in fact, why do you need to know something that you've never done, you've never studied, you've never tried to do? So I had all of these thoughts that would just keep me down and limited. And it would show up in relationships. I didn't start dating until I was 30. Because I didn't think that I had anything to contribute. Like I wasn't of value to link up with somebody else. Like if anyone was interested, I'm like, no, look at these people. They're all greater than me. I wouldn't say that, but my actions would do that. It would show up in friendships where I would do things. And this was all kind of in the background, right? It wasn't like I am doing this in order for this. It was like in the background with friends. I felt like I needed to appease them. And it's not like they gave me a list of things I needed to check off as a friend, but I'm like, I have to talk this much, I have to do this. And if they ask me for something, I have to say yes, because I needed to earn my keep, because me and of myself was not valuable enough for them to be friends with me just because I am who I am. And so it really like ruled and played out in so many different ways in every area of my life. And I didn't realize I was run by that story for so many years. So now that I'm talking and like sharing, like I'm committed to being a contribution, and I have it that other people are a contribution, that wouldn't have come out of my mouth like 15, 20 years ago, that I am me simply being me and showing up, not because there's anything like that I have something that other people don't. I mean, we have equal value, like you get to be an expression in the world in a different way than I get to be. And but it's all equal value in terms of what we get to give to the world. It's just expressed in a different way.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from. I wouldn't have said I was going to do this 5 years ago or whatever, right? Completely changed, so I know where you're coming from with the limiting beliefs. So yeah, something happened to you in childhood, right? And I get that from a lot of guests, and a lot of people are picking that up in the world now, where everything stems from the childhood. I don't know why we're all thinking like that now, but a lot of people are. And so you had this problem and it carried out through your life. And then about 15 years ago, you said you shifted. So, I mean, what caused you to have that shift?
Yeah, there's been probably there's been multiple incidents or discoveries or, kind of like blind spots uncovered. Like there's been multiple incidents throughout the last like 15 years, I would say, but there are two kind of major seasons where a lot was uncovered. So I joined this program. So I'm a Christian. I joined this program for people for Christian. I mean, yeah, I guess it was primarily targeted towards Christians who had experienced some type of brokenness in their life, of varying kinds. And it went after our identity. So it really looked at who are we really? Like, who does God really say that we are? And so he doesn't say that I need to be someone that like says yes to everyone just to make them happy. Like, that's not my identity. That's not how I was created in his image. And so we really looked at different relationships in our lives, relationships with fathers, with mothers, with men, with women, with the church, with all of these different areas. And so it was like a chance to kind of like peel back the layers and see what are my beliefs about the way I operate in the world in this way and in this way and in this way and this way. And I discovered that I operated in being a people pleaser to keep people around. And I saw my value in the way that others reacted to me or interacted with me versus separating how people interact or respond. That doesn't have to do with who I am or the value that I have. So it was a way to distinguish, to not have my value be dependent upon somebody else. So that was one of the major kind of healing periods. I think the course was maybe 6 months, 9 months at the most, but I think it was probably around 6 months. And it was incredible. I'm like, I don't actually even have to do something to please God because I'm his child. I get to be accepted by him because of the way that he sees me, because of his son. Like, even that relationship, like I knew that like God loved me, but there was always kind of this thought of like, I need to do stuff to like please him. I can't have him or make him love me anymore. It's like kind of coming from like a place of manipulation when you think about it. Like if I'm interacting with a friend and I'm doing this so that they like keep me around, it really is nasty. Like it's manipulation. And same thing with God. It's like as if I can fool God. Like, your kids or people's kids might do something and you're like, I'm 10 steps ahead of you. Like I see what you're doing. Listen up. You're good. I love, you know what I mean? Like as if I can, in God's like, infinite wisdom and knowledge. He's like, girl, no, like you don't have to do anything to get me to like you or love you. So that was a very freeing time. So that was one of the periods. And then probably about 6 years ago, I took a personal development course and they went out after blind spots as well. And there was so much that was uncovered and I took multiple courses. And that's where I discovered that where and when that story started at 4 or 5 years old and how it's played out in like every single relationship and conversation. In that I got to see that I would put up, I wanted people to see me in a certain way and I saw more of that manipulation. So there was freeing up and like, amazing things that happened through that Christian organization or that Christian ministry class. And then this one didn't have anything to do with religion. And it freed me up even more. So seeing like I always would avoid or not want to stand up and say like, I could be the one that makes the difference. It was everyone else that can make the difference. So I got to see like how I operate in the world where I'm like, I don't want to even take on accountability. I don't want to take on responsibility. I don't want to give my word to things. My yes is not going to be yes. My no is not going to be no. I'm going to say no. And like I just got to really see how I could be straight in communication, and people's responses don't have anything to do with me. I get to be responsible for my communication. It's not like I go around the world, but people are big people. Like they don't need to be placated or they don't need to be, I can just be straight in communication and like we can resolve whatever comes up in communication. And so it freed me up to really show up and be. And it's allowed me to take on things that I wouldn't have ever taken on. So after I took one of the first courses in that, I went down the path of buying real estate and buying a complete property that needed to be completely gutted and renovated. And I would have never, because I thought I'm not good enough. Like I can't do this. Like all of those limiting beliefs is like, no, if they could do it, that means there's a path. Like it's been done. I could do it too. I could just discover what it is. And so I didn't make it mean anything that I didn't know how to buy a house or like what was involved or if I could qualify. It's like, no, I could ask questions freely, not wondering if, okay, I should know something. No, like I could actually even ask a question without there being these thoughts, condemning thoughts or negative thoughts about myself. So I got to like, I don't know that. And I could figure it out. And, whatever comes up will come up. So had I not discovered that, I think I would have still been thinking about potentially one day, maybe buying a property, maybe. And And in that, like, after the Christian one, I actually went on a date and, started dating. And I was like, wow, if the person doesn't like me, it doesn't mean anything about me. It's just that it's not a match, and that's okay. And so it freed me up to be, in relationship with, a romantic relationship, and it doesn't matter how it goes. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of my value or like my identity. So yeah, my identity wasn't dependent upon people or their responses or whatever. Like, I still get to show up how I show up. And yeah.
That's good. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, especially learning something like that so late in life, right? And try to restructure it. The thing is a lot of people are not going to tolerate that. They're not going to want to communicate with you to work things out. They're just, it's my way, and that's it. They don't care if they upset you. They don't want to find out that they're in the wrong. This is how I'm looking at it too. If somebody wants to talk to you about things. And so I bring it up a lot when people ask me my book or whatever, and it's just the 4 agreements I just love. And the first thing is not taking things personally, and that's exactly what you're describing here. And as soon as you get over that hump of that first one, things are just so much better, so much clearer. And if you have God on your side or some kind of faith, if it's kind of uplifting, so all the weights lifted off of you and you don't have to worry about anything. And so the people that come into your life will exit if they're supposed to exit, and people meant to stay will stay.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm finding that with, people like yourself and everybody that I was surrounding myself, especially, back in Florida, and that if that environment felt like we were able to be vulnerable and open up and stuff. I mean, I know a bunch of us did. But yeah, so I mean, what triggered you to go take this Christian course? I mean, did it just pop up? Did somebody say, go do this or...
Yeah. I had noticed how I was kind of stopped in life in different areas, and I thought there's got to be another way. And so someone had mentioned it, someone else had mentioned it. And then there was a couple at the church that I was attending at the time who were involved and actually volunteered in it. And I thought, okay, like all signs are kind of pointing towards this is a great tool to free me up from some past hangups and, past like limiting beliefs that I've had about myself. And so it was very easy when I talked to them and just heard what a difference it made for them. That why not invest in myself? And I didn't realize what I would get out of it. And like I said, it was like that kind of like an onion, like peeling back the layers. And then, several years later, doing it with the non-Christian one, and even more layers, like, wow, I thought I was like healed, and like I saw, but there was like deeper and deeper and deeper healing that has continued on, which has been great. So yeah, thanks for asking me the question in the beginning that you did, because I'm like, wow, those words really would have never come out of my mouth years ago. Look at you.
Of course. What was it like to try to figure out? You don't have to share what issues you had back when you were a child, but I mean, what was it like to try and figure that out? What was it like the process to say, yeah, that instant was the time that made me feel like this, and you've gotten in where that loop, and you're going to work on.
Yeah, it was super freeing. It was super freeing because I got to see that wasn't the truth. Like, I got to see like the tape that had been playing since I was 5 until whatever. It wasn't the truth. So it was very freeing, almost immediately, like very freeing. And so, it was like a guided exercise where they would ask questions, and there's kind of like a way to like see, hey, when did that story kind of start? And I don't remember the exact steps, but I know that that's when that got uncovered. And I thought, wow, the tape to be playing for so long, you start to believe it, right? If someone says you're amazing, you're this, you're that, like, you're going to start to believe it. If someone says you're horrible, you're good for nothing, you have no purpose in life, like, you're going to start to believe it. And so for years, I found evidence for how true that was for years and years and years. So it was very freeing. And then what I got to do after I saw that from then on until today is to notice when that tape starts to play back and say, we changed the tape. Like, that's not the truth. That's not who I am. So there's certain incidents that it's not the incident maybe, but it's what I think about the incident that triggers that tape to play again. So I get to say, hold up. That was a tape that was made up. It's a lie. That's not who I truly am. Let's erase that, take the tape out, if that's a reference that anyone understands, a tape. And like, let's play a new one. I don't know, that's a download that doesn't belong. I don't know. I can't think of a great reference. Yeah. So it was super empowering to be able to discover that. And then just the practice of noticing it. And typically I notice it when there's like a feeling that's like or like a thought about myself that's super negative, or like, wait, hold on. This seems familiar, a little too familiar. Let me pause. And what's really happening? Oh, somebody said this and I made it mean I'm not good enough or I'm not worth it. No, that's not what was meant. That they said what they said, which we haven't. It's not like the words they're saying are that. It's what I'm, applying the meaning that I'm giving what they're saying.
Right. So you kind of combat it with them because they're negative or whatever, and you're not accepting it. So you walk away.
Yeah, they may not even be negative. They may just say something that I interpret or I apply that I'm not good enough. I'm trying to think of an example, like a recent example. I mean, it can be literally as simple as, I don't know, me inviting somebody to go out to eat and they say no. And I can't think of a specific one from just like this last week, but it's where there's nothing negative about it. They just said no, but I applied, well, I'm not good enough. And if I was, then they would have said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh, they don't want to hang out with me. Right. So you can kind of define yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that book would say it all too, because then you start assuming things and everything else. Now, so you went through this transformation. You understand you still have some wounds and triggers that come up, and you know how to deal with it. Is it something like a short process? Like you go, I got it, and I walk away, or don't say anything, or is it like you have to step aside for some minutes or whatnot?
Yeah. It really depends on what it is. So just recently, it took me probably 4 months to actually notice what was running the show recently. Sometimes it's within the minute. Sometimes it's a couple minutes. It might be a day where I'm like, wait, hold on, what's really happening here? And recently it was as much as 4 months. I'm like, what is this? Like, why can't I? And for whatever reason, it was almost like I wasn't blinded, but I had the experience of like, I can't get to the root of all of this. And with the friendship, I liked somebody. We were just friends, and our friendship had shifted. And I noticed that when our friendship shifted, I thought, oh, if I was good enough, if I was valuable enough, it wouldn't have shifted. Like, he would have still maintained the friendship in the way that I knew it. But what was underlying all of that was like, if I was good enough, I'm not good enough. That's why it shifted. And I felt super disempowered around it. And it took 4 months for me to realize that. So it could be as little as like 30 seconds to a minute, or recently it was 4 months. And when I saw that, I instantly was free and had a conversation with him and said, hey, listen, like, I've been having this expectation that things would go this way and that would show my value. And that's not fair. And that's not true. And, I'm holding you up for to the standard that is totally made up. So it varies. That was a longer one for me, 4 months. That was really long. 4 months of disempowerment around that particular area. But yeah, it took a friend asking a question. What would you make that mean if he said such and such? I'm like, nothing. It's nothing. Instantly afraid. Yeah.
Yeah. So uncommunicated expectations is another big thing. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're running around with stuff in your head, expecting him or whoever it is, right, to be doing something. Like, he knows me, like, he's got to figure it out.
That's
right, but he doesn't. You know,
Yes.
you got to communicate.
Yes. Playing a game and never telling the person the rules or how to win. Yeah, that's not fair.
You're beating yourself up, and then he might, he or she might, be wondering what's going on too. If they're thinking, why is she acting this way or whatever. That's good. She saw it and she reached out and said something. So a lot of people just pass it off and be all miserable or whatever, and not even address it.
Yeah.
Good. This is all good stuff, Jen. So you do you start real estate now, or you just did that one project?
I have a duplex in DC that I live in, and then I do like house hacking. So
Okay,
my tenants get to pay for my mortgage and bills, which is really
awesome.
nice. Yeah.
That's cool. And so how'd you get into the insurance field then?
Yeah. So had I not done those courses, I would have never been opened up to even other opportunities. So I did those courses, and then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, what is this? I think before I would have been like, that's cool for everyone else, not for me. So literally did those courses, read that book, called a lender, went down the real estate path. That took a couple of years to close and to renovate. So that was that. And then a friend of mine had told me about being able to make a difference for people with, these services. And I thought, yeah, I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking for opportunities to diversify my income. I've got the real estate. I've got a couple of other things lined up, and let me add this to it. So I didn't set out to be a part of, offering comprehensive healthcare. But because my mind was open, I had the lens of looking for opportunity. Before I thought, I'm good. I don't need anything. And I didn't need anything, but why not create a bigger impact, create a business, create an asset, create a legacy, and do that. So I saw it as adding value to people in a very tangible way with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And hey, they get to win, I get to win. And, in the end, it's great. So yeah, I was getting past those limiting beliefs so I could actually see that I could build and create something other than what I had known or what I've been doing since college.
There's a big difference, I'm sure, and hanging around with the people you probably were hanging around with, you could have been stuck. So you're disrupting the healthcare industry. So, I guess you're doing this by yourself. So, good luck to the healthcare. But what do you mean by that?
So I'm not doing it by myself. There's a lot of us who are actually committed to this mission. So what I mean by it is, the health insurance industry has its place and its purpose for people. Like there's a good reason why we have it for people who do have a lot of, illnesses and chronic issues and whatnot. But the majority of people are generally healthy, and we are overspending and overcharged for healthcare, like massive amounts. And so I've partnered with this nonprofit to be able to offer an alternative solution to healthcare. To traditional health insurance, excuse me. So it is comprehensive. It's great. It's just a different way of looking at it. And the nonprofit's intention and commitment is to make sure that people aren't overspending on things. So for instance, I use it myself, and I went to the emergency room in February and I got a bill for $4,000. They sent it to my nonprofit partner and they negotiated down to $600. So just to show you, they said yes, they had no problem saying yes to negotiating it down to $600. So from $4,000 to $600, that is over. For them to say yes, they didn't have to say yes. They could have been like, nope, we're going to charge you $4,000. But they knew that what they were charging was overcharging. So that's what I mean by like disrupting it. Like, man, I hadn't met my deductible and I would have had to pay all of that. But instead I got to pay this amount. So that's one way we're making healthcare affordable and accessible to business owners. Instead of paying, $1,500 to $1,800 per employee, they could pay $200 per employee, $300 per employee. It's actually making healthcare something that is financially accessible to people. So, yeah, that's the
awesome. And it's somebody goes in and says, bring the price down. Is that how it works out?
So they do all of the nonprofit does all of the advocacy on behalf of us. So insurance companies do this where they have set prices or agreements, and we'll directly interface, or the nonprofit will interface with the providers. And 99.9% of the time, the providers say, yeah, sure, we'll pay, we'll charge that much, because they overcharge by about 400% typically. Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. So how does somebody reach out to you and understand more about the insurance and stuff?
How do they reach out to me? You can call me. You can email me. You can find me on social media. Do I tell them my address? Do they show up at my door? What do I do?
I don't know. You tell me how they contact you. I mean,
No, please don't show up at my door. Please don't show up at my door. What did you say? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
What's the best way for somebody to reach you?
They can email me.
Okay. All right. And you can give me that, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Like, everyone get your pencils out.
Yeah. That's fine. And so I have one question to ask you, like I ask everybody else. What are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
That's great. No prep for this too. What are 3 key things that I've learned and used along my journey? One is that that God is who he says he is. 2 is that all things work together for my good. Like, even if it looks really crappy, even if it looks really horrible, even if it's disappointing or heartbreaking, like, everything in life, nothing is wasted. Yeah. And then 3, every person has a story. And so it gives me grace for myself, and it gives me grace for other people as I'm interacting with them as well. Like, I don't know this person's story. Like, I don't know why they got so upset when X happened. There's a story behind it. So.
Cool. No, that's good. Yeah. You're being considerate of others and understanding where they're coming from, even though you might not know everything yet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your journey in life. And I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.